Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. Today I am pleased to be making along with you the Campanula Crossbody phone bag by Calla. Thank you so much, Celine, for allowing me to do this tutorial. I cannot wait to share this bag with all of you. Let me show you some of the features of this bag. So as you can see, it's a fairly small bag. This is perfect bag. I'm actually keeping this one for myself. This is going to be my travel bag or when I'm out walking and I only want to be carrying the essentials and I don't want to be carrying my large purse. So let me show you how amazingly perfect this bag is. So you got a crossbody strap, which can be worn as a crossbody or as a shoulder strap. It has a flap that closes either with magnetic snap or with a turn lock. This is a turn lock that I actually purchased from Calla. It is just so incredibly adorable. You flip up the bee's bum to open it up. So let me show you the inside of this bag. So I'm going to open up my lock, and on the inside you have it's hard to see because of the fabric I chose, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 card slots. On the inside you have a slip pocket, which is perfect for your cell phone, and a zipper pocket, and plenty of room to carry your essentials. This is a really fast and I found an easy to sew. What did I use in this? My bee fabric here is a Fabricville Fabricland print. Again, all my hardware, or all my zipper pulls, my zipper and my bee lock are all from Calla. My rectangular rings and rivets are from Emmaline bags. Interfacing in this, in my flap, I do have some deck of a Lite in there just to give it a little bit more of a leathery feel. All my cotton pieces are backed with EB Fuse Lite from Emmaline bags, and I used Flex Foam as my main stabilizer in this. Yeah, and you can also buy that Flex Foam, Pelon Flex Foam from Emmaline bags. What else? It's completely domestic machine friendly. I don't know. I just absolutely love this bag. Again, I'm keeping it for myself because I'm just in love, especially with this turn lock. Anyways, without further ado, let's get making this bag.
Okay, so you're going to need number 5 zipper tape, number 5 zipper pull, a turn lock or a magnetic snap, 2 1-inch rectangular rings, a slider, and I'm going to use strap ends. Okay, so you're going to need your flap, lining, and exterior piece. I have my flap interfaced with deck of a Lite. You're going to need your main body pieces. I have my foam interfacing for one panel set aside. My other exterior back panel, I have attached my foam using this Craft Bond permanent spray adhesive to keep it out of the seam allowances. And then my 2 lining pieces. Again, all of my cotton pieces are backed with EB Fuse Lite. Okay, you're going to need your gusset pieces, your 2 lining gusset pieces, and your 2 exterior. Again, these have had the foam put on them with the spray adhesive. Okay, so we're going to have 3 different sizes of our front panels. You're going to have the 2 shorter ones, a medium size one, and a large size one. All of these are backed with EB Fuse Lite. Your 2 front side panels, your card slot, and I have my EB Fuse Lite outside of the seam allowances, and your lock panel. You're also going to need your 4 or 5 deck of a Lite pieces for your card slot construction, 2 connectors, and your crossbody strap. So I'm going to go ahead and do my crossbody strap off camera. If you need a class for that, it's down in the description below. Okay, so let's work on our card slots. You're going to put the lock panel on the bottom side of this. This is very important if you're using directional fabric. You'll want this on the bottom. We're going to go ahead, sew across this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, press the seam down towards the bottom of there, and top stitch. Next, we are going to mark the back of our card slots as per the pattern and the measurements. And I'm just using an invisible ink pen. This will go away later on. So mark down all the lines as per the pattern. Then you're going to take your deck of Lite pieces. Now the larger one you're going to take and put it a 1/2 inch down from the top and fuse that on. Okay, and then you're going to take your shorter pieces and put them on like so. So there's the 4-inch markings that we did, and you're going to be putting these just below those 4-inch lines. Okay, so what I'm going to do is at those shorter pieces, I'm just going to fold along the top of them and I'm just going to make my creases. So there's the first one, using the deck of Lite as a guide to get a nice crisp edge. I'm going to make another crease here, go to the third one, do the same thing, make another crease, and then finally the last one. Okay, so now it's kind of hard to see with the fabric that I'm using, but what you want to do is you're going to bring each of those creases up within a 1/2 inch of the next crease. So our first one, we are going to match up with our lock panel here. So I have my lock panel, the top of that sitting a 1/2 inch down from that first crease or the top of that deck of Lite. I am actually going to flip this over to press it just because I used vinyl as my lock panel piece and I don't want to melt the front of it. If you used all cotton for this, you can go ahead and press it from the front side. Okay, so we've got one done there. Now we're going to pull up that one here up to the next one a 1/2 inch. Again, I apologize. It is really hard to see because of the color of my fabric. So I'm kind of just pinching it here to show you. So that's the top of that next deck of Lite where we made the crease. I'm making sure they are a 1/2 inch down from each other. And then you go ahead and press. Again, I am flipping it upside down to press just because I use vinyl on my lock panel piece. But you can see here how our card slots are forming. Okay, going to do the same for the next one. Put the ruler right up where the crease is at the 1/2 inch mark on the ruler. Pull that last crease up like so. Line it up with the ruler and give it a press. One more to go, doing the same thing. And the last one we do slightly different. Just bring it up within a 1/2 inch of that last crease. Make sure it's a 1/2 inch and give it a press. Okay, next we are going to measure down from the top side. As per the pattern piece, I believe it was 2 3/4 inches. We're going to draw a line. You can use your chalk pen. I am again using my invisible ink pen. And that is where I'm going to pull this line or my last crease all the way up to that line, like so, and give it a good press. You can go through and straighten them all out so they're all nice and even. Double check they're all the right width apart. I just am taking an old Starbucks card and I'm just going to make sure that the depth is good and it's all pretty even, and I am good. So now I'm going to go ahead on each of those folds and top stitch and then baste down the sides. Okay, so that is done. So I'm taking my side panels and I am putting them right sides together with my card slot panel. You can see that my card slots are a little bit too long there. I will trim that up here momentarily. Go ahead and clip these together. You want to make sure the curvy part is at the bottom of the card slots, like so. Go ahead and stitch that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we are going to top stitch these with the seams pointing towards the side panels of the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, make sure the seam is going towards the side panel, and then top stitch through the side panel. You will do this exact same method with the other side. So now we want to mark where we're going to put the male part of our turn lock or our magnetic snap. So I'm just taking my pattern piece here, and I poked a little hole where the magnetic snap or turn lock placement is. I'm making that mark, and that is where I will install the male part of my turn lock or my bee-bum. Okay, so that's done, and I've put a little bit of Peltex in behind that just to give it a little more stability, and a little bit of duct tape over top of the prongs to help with the rubbing. Then you're going to go ahead and put the foam on that piece with a little bit of spray bond, or the spray bond. So now to mark where our female part is going to go of our turn lock, we have our flap here. I actually like to put a little piece of Peltex in behind where that marking is, just so it has a little bit more to grab onto. So once you've had that Peltex put on, you're going to go ahead and take your flap pieces, your exterior and your lining pieces, put them right sides together, clip all the way around, except for on the side, one side, you're going to leave about a 4-inch opening like so. That'll be for turning. And we're going to go ahead and go all the way around between these marks with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, and we want to also go ahead after sewing to trim this down to approximately a 1/4 of an inch. I'm using pinking shears to get a nice corner, but you will not trim the seam allowance down where that opening is for turning. You'll keep those the same as they are now. So go ahead and turn through that opening. I like to take a pokey object like a chopstick or what have you, just to poke out those seams and corners really nice. Then you're going to take that opening and fold the seam allowance under and go give that a really good press. Okay, so you can see how that's folded under. I'm going to take a couple clips to make sure that doesn't slip and top stitch the whole thing with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So you can see our opening is all closed up. We have our mark here for our female part of our turn lock. I'm going to go ahead and install that off camera. All right, so now let's put our flap onto our exterior back panel. So we want to find the center of the top of this. Make sure it's centered. And we are going to make some marks with some chalk. We're going to measure down 1 3/4 inches, I believe it is. Double check your pattern, draw a line, and then 3/8 of an inch in from each side. Okay, then we're going to take our flap. I'm going to put some double-sided tape here to help me hold it in place. And with our exterior right side up and our flap right side up, you're going to put this down to that line nice and centered. You want to make sure it's in between those 3/8 mark because you do not want the flap to end up being caught in our seam allowance. Now to stabilize this on here, I am making 1/4 inch lines with my pen here. So it's about 1/8 of an inch away from our top stitch. And I'm making kind of, I think it's called a trapezoid. I'm not sure, but it's a 1/2 inch. We'll say trapezoid. So I'm just kind of following the shape of the bag and then making sure my lines here are a 1/2 inch apart. And then we're going to go ahead and top stitch along that shape all around here. So I'm pulling my threads really long. I'm not going to back stitch. I don't want to have an ugly back stitch start and stop here. So pull your threads long and then follow those lines that we drew. Make sure your needle's down in the corners before pivoting and follow your line. Okay, and I'm just right now going to pull on my bobbin thread side to pull that top thread through from that that start stitches we did. And as we come back to the start, we want to make sure our needle is going down in the same hole that we created when we started stitching. Pull your threads long. Pull on your bobbin thread to pull the top thread through. So hard to say. Take those 4 strands there and tie them in 3 or 4 knots. I take 2 in one hand and 2 in the other and tie that way. And this will make it so we don't have a start and stop knot on the right side of this. Okay, so now let's work on our gusset pieces. Now we're going to take our 2 gusset pieces, put them right sides together. You're going to do the same with the lining pieces. Sew these with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, open up the seams, and then top stitch down each side of the seam. Okay, so now let's find the center of our exterior back piece. And we are going to attach the gusset. So match up the centers. Pull the sides up and match up the tops of the sides. Do the same on the other side. Now when you get to the corners, they may not look like they want to fit, so you can do some little teeny tiny snips into the gusset pieces to help spread that fabric around that corner. Like so. Clip into place. Repeat with the other corner. And then we're going to go all the way around with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now to get nice and close to the foam, I put on my zipper foot here. So my zipper foot pretty much rests right next to my foam interfacing here. So go all the way around with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And make sure you don't sew through your flap. So that is all done. My stitches look good. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the other side in the exact same manner. Okay, so that's done. So now I'm just going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to trim up the seam allowances so I have really nice corners and such all the way around, and to reduce the bulk. Okay, so now let's work on our connectors. So what you're going to do is I'm going to take some double-sided tape. You can definitely use clips. And I'm going to fold into the center line, which I have marked at a 1 inch, the 2 long edges, and then top stitch down those folded edges for both connectors. So now that our exterior is done, you're going to go ahead and you're going to pull it right side out. So you can see one side has our nice card slots, and the other side is our back with our flap. I'm just going to double check that they match up, and they do. Now we want to connect our connectors. So you're going to take our 2 connector pieces and our 2 rectangular rings. I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided top just along the bottom of the connectors, just to keep them in place when we connect them to the rings. Take your rectangular ring and then bring the connector wrong sides together, matching up the two short ends. Then you're going to go ahead and center that onto the gusset pieces at the top and baste those on for both sides. Okay, so now we're going to take our two small of the lining pocket pieces, and we are going to start making our zipper pocket. So I'm going to use double-sided tape. Feel free to use clips if your machine cannot handle the tape. I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to put it along the top of that. Take the other short piece, double-sided tape along that. So our zipper and our first lining piece are right side up. This piece we are going to put right sides together. We're going to go ahead and sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, flip them wrong sides together, and top stitch along here. Okay, so now we are going to take our medium size piece. I'm going to put some double-sided tape or use clips along here. And we're going to put it right side up with our other zipper part right side up, matching up the unsewn side of our zipper. Take the longest piece, do the same thing with either clips or double-sided tape, and we are going to put this right sides together with our zipper here. Once again, we're going to sew across here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Pull them wrong sides together, and yes, one piece will be longer than the other, and top stitch along here. Okay, so this is what we have. So you see we have one piece that is longer than the other. That is okay. So bring the shorter piece so it's even with the other two panels, then bring the longer piece down as well, like so, matching up the curved bottoms. And you will see that's going to give us a nice little top right here. So go ahead and give that a good press. So we have that all pressed. So now we're going to top stitch along here and baste the other raw edges together. Okay, so now we're going to place this on top of our lining panel. I know mine is a little bit uneven here. I'm going to go ahead and straighten that up, and we are going to baste that together. All right, so now we are going to put our lining pieces together almost exactly the same way that we did with our exterior pieces, except for with one difference. So take your lining panel that does not have the pocket and the zipper on it, and take your gusset piece, match up the centers, match up the tops, just like we did before. Okay, so the one difference we're going to do is on the long side here, we're going to leave about a 4-inch opening, and that'll be for turning the bag. At the top of the bag, we're going to start sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, but when we get about a third of the way down, we're going to branch out into a 1/2 inch seam allowance, of course starting and stopping at our opening sides. Just want to make sure that at the top we get back to a 3/8 inch seam allowance. That way it's the same width around as our exterior. But we want it to be a little bit more snug in the bag, so branching it out to that 1/2 inch is making it so it won't be as baggy inside. So I've stopped at that first line of the opening, jumped over, and backstitched. I'm going all the way around the bottom with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And when we get to about here, we're going to go back down to a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now you're going to go ahead with the other panel that has the pocket, and the only difference here is we are not going to leave an opening in the side, but at the tops we're going to be at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, working our way down with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then up the other side, but almost to the top, we're going to go back to a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, you can go ahead and trim down your seam allowances as well. Okay, so here we are. So we got our exterior completely done. We have our lining completely down with an opening in the side. Now we're going to stick these in, the exterior into the lining, right sides together. Make sure your flap is tucked right in behind it. We do not want to get this stuck in our top stitch or in our stitching when we put the bag together. What I like to do is I like to line up the 4 seams here. So I go ahead and I do that on the sides first. This will give us a nice fluid line so they match up for our exterior and our linings. Hop on over to the other side, match up those seams. And then evenly distribute the fabric through the front and the back. Okay, so if I'm doing this on a flatbed, I would go ahead and I would stitch from the inside here because this opening is so small. I am going to take it to my cylinder arm because that is why I bought the cylinder arm. It just makes this a lot easier. Okay, so now that's done, we're going to go ahead and pull through that opening in the side of the lining. I find if you can get the flap out first, the rest comes out very easy. So go ahead and pull that through. Stick your hand in through the hole and push out all of the seams nice and tight on the lining side and on the exterior side. And then you're going to fold over the sides of where that opening is to enclose those raw edges and secure with clips. And then we're going to take this to the machine and top stitch the opening shut just along there. Okay, so once that is done, you can go ahead and stuff the lining inside the bag. And then I'm just going to roll the seam in between my fingers and secure with clips to hold it in place to get ready for top stitching. like so. Okay, so if I was doing this on my flatbread, I would actually top stitch through the inside of the bag like so, making sure your bobbin thread is really good, as it's what we'll be showing. That would be the easiest way, but the absolute easiest way is just taking it to my good old Tommy cylinder arm machine and doing it that way. And once that's all done, just attach your crossbody strap, and I also went and put a few rivets through the lining in the exterior of the connectors for a little extra stability, and then we're done.
All right, that's it. That's all, folks. See, it comes together so fast. I would say I could get this together probably in about a 3 to 4 hours, so cut to finish. It would make a great gift. It would make a great bag for the market tables if you're doing craft fairs or what have you. I don't know. I'm in love with this bag. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Oh, perfect. Again, thank you so much, Celine, for allowing me to do the video for this bag. Yeah, if you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Please do subscribe. And if you'd like to support my family, my channel further, you can buy me a coffee. All that information is down below. Anyways, I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.